for Coach.
Okay, the road's obviously been so long to get to this point of the season, the way you built this team from ground zero. How does it feel now to actually be here?
No, it's exciting. This is what you work and what everything in June was geared towards this moment of being able to play and compete for a national championship. And so being able to be here and be in this moment, I'm excited for the guys. Hopefully it gives them some type of credit that hard work pays off, and everything that we went through and all the dog days finally got us to where we wanted to get to.
How about you personally?
I mean, I still haven't really fully taken a deep breath. Sunday was pretty cool, just the excitement, the fans, the guys, being able to hear our name call. I guess that was my kind of little moment of reflection, but then after that, it was right on to Missouri.
Taking a look at Missouri, I mean, you obviously have a lot of familiarity with Mark Mitchell. Just
Yeah.
what have you seen from them this week in preparation for the game?
I mean, they're really good. You know, they had some bad luck these last couple of games, but they were a top 4 team in the SEC. You know, they're big, they're physical. They kind of play inside out, like you were saying, through Mark Mitchell. They put him in a lot of similar situations as we do Malik. So you can see kind of the similarities in that. And, you know, for us, it's one of those games where we just got to kind of stay true to who we are. You know, I think a big part of it will be the glass. We got to really take care of the ball. You know, they're explosive when they can get points off of turnovers and they can get out and get kind of pick sixes and free kind of layups and things in transition. So we got to limit that as much as possible. And then we got to defend without fouling. You know, T.O. Barrett, Mark Mitchell, they put a lot of pressure on you in the paint and a lot of pressure on you in the rim. So we really got to make sure we're hitting them with our chest, showing our hands, and not giving them any free points from the line.
And then defensively, because they run that sort of exotic little 1-3-1 zone. That's
Yeah.
a lot different than what we see in a lot of zones throughout college basketball. Just what is different about their zone, and what challenges does it present?
You know, watching it is very similar to SMU. You know, they're a little bit longer and a little bit more active up front with their guards. But, you know, some similar ways that you can kind of get through it and expose it, but it's a little bit different, so we got to come with some new stuff as well. But just being able to kind of execute and flow out of our zone like we have been, we've actually been pretty good. We've been better against zone than we have against man, which is shocking when you look at the numbers. But we have been really good against zone. So, you know, we've seen a lot of it. We've seen all types of zone playing in the ACC, but also in the preseason. So we should be pretty comfortable against it.
A lot of that familiarity with the Missouri lineup, you have Coach C.Y., you have Marcus Allen. Has it been fun picking their brains a little bit, trying to prepare for this matchup?
It has been, but also, you know, they're playing a lot different than they played the years before. And they're playing more of an execution game. You know, usually they've been more high tempo, up speed, a little bit more pressure, a little bit more pace with how they're playing. Right now they're playing through the post, so that makes you slow down a lot when you play that way. So some of the stuff, I think the principles, the foundation of how they guard, some of that stuff is the same. And then some of the stuff they're doing offensively is a little bit different. But it's been good to just kind of get a feel for the psychological part of the game.
We asked this question amongst ourselves here, but we didn't have an answer. Maybe you've done more research than we should. But has any team ever had a whole roster makeover, whole coaching staff makeover that you know of?
I think the only one, just thinking of it, would have been Kentucky last year. I don't think they had one player back. I think that was a big thing. We're talking about them and maybe Louisville. And this is me guessing. I have no idea. But those were the
curious
first two.
when you're researching how to start. You know, did you research, or you just say, okay, this is the way I know?
No, I just kind of had a vision and a plan in my mind of being in the ACC the last 3 years and what made us effective at Duke. I thought the one thing that made us effective, we had really good players, so that always helps. We got the best players. But the second part was we had great positional size. And I saw the impact that it had on the league. And I kind of went with that approach. But it's funny because also the league picked up on it and they went with that approach this year. And I think that was the biggest difference as well. But I knew I wanted to build it with size. And it started with a 4-man who you got to kind of make a decision. Do you switch? Do you not switch? It gives you another way to create an advantage. And so it all kind of built and started with Malik and then went from there.
So he was the first guy that I know you said he's going to be our leading scorer.
Yep.
When you admit that.
No, yeah, it was. He was the first guy I kind of pinpointed because I knew just watching him that he could do some of the stuff at the 4 that I wanted to do and how I wanted to play. But then also he gave you the ability, if you wanted to go small, he's big enough and physical enough and had played the 5. So it just gives you a lot of versatility when you have people who can play multiple positions. And that's kind of where I started it and how I wanted to do it.
Shelton told a story about the workouts, he said early morning workouts and doing push-ups, and it was kind of rough for you.
Yeah, no, we had to get him into shape, you know what I mean? We had to find a way. My way of building bond and through team chemistry, always the way I felt as a player and just being around is by making him do stuff that's really hard. Because when it's really hard, you got to get through it together. You can't do it individually. And so the thing with the summer and the fall was to make it as hard as possible and get them to understand how much they need each other. I felt that was the best way to do it.
Now, he said you struggled with it too.
Yeah, you know, we did, you know, it's kind of a coaching staff team type of deal that kind of got, you know, everybody involved and just trying to build that connection. You know, I'm not as fit as I used to be, I'll say that.
Malik's been drawing a lot of double teams.
Yep.
How has that changed the game for you, and how do you continue to adjust now that you're going into the tournament?
You know, it just depending on where the double team comes from, we have options and we have reads. You know, the biggest thing is, one, trying to get them the ball on the run so teams can't double them and not just staring them down and throwing it into them where it's an easy double. And then once he gets it, just understand he's got to be a playmaker. And that comes with his responsibility and the gravity that he draws is being the best player. Like, it's not always about scoring. It's about making plays for others and putting people in position where they can be successful. So, you know, you always seen him throw the lobs to Ernest, but also some of the skips and the rotational passes that he started to make has kind of opened everything up. And I really thought it started Florida State game with his vision and his passing has really picked up.
This is, I mean, obviously your first year coaching the Sherman as a head coach, but you have a lot of experience as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Are there any differences in coaching, whether it be approach, process, from the regular season to the tournament, or is it a matter of kind of staying the same?
The hardest part about coaching in the tournament is trying to keep everything the same and trying to keep it as normal as possible. It's almost impossible to do. You know, it's all you see on TV. It's all you're hearing about. Everything is college basketball 24/7. I think we had the last game of the first round, if I'm not mistaken. So we have 2 full days of it. So, you know, my job is to try to keep everything as normal as possible. Our approach, everything that we went about this game was normal as possible. It just gave us longer days to scout and come up with a game plan. But the way we go about it, our approach, trying to keep the guys engaged, is just, that's the hardest part because it's so different. So just trying to keep some type of similarities between a normal game is the hardest.
Coach, having said that, how do you instill a sense of urgency, though, knowing that you have to keep everything the same, but you have to have a sense of urgency at this
You
moment?
just gotta tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta tell them it's survive in advance, it's win and go home time. You know, it's not to add any anxiety or any fear, it's just what it is. You know what I mean? So it makes you, everything has to be heightened. You know what I mean? So just understanding the magnitude of the moment, I think is a big part. But also getting them the confidence, understand, we've been there before, we've been on the road, this is a road game. We've competed in big time environments, we've played teams like this and that are similar. This is why our schedule, it was like that. 8 teams out the ACC made it, you know, so this isn't any different. It's always gonna be about us and our approach and how we go about it.
Is there anything that you and your staff, because you mentioned the late tip-off, is there anything that you and your staff are kind of doing to prepare for, I mean, I don't think you guys have had a 10 p.m. tip-off this year, just
Yeah,
obviously the
no,
difference.
you know, once we get up there, we're pushing everything back. So our meetings and everything we do at night will be kind of around game time, and we'll try to keep them up a little bit later and just get their bodies adjusted. So even practice tomorrow is later. You know, we got an early open practice, but when we practice, it will be later. You know, walk through on Fridays later. You know, we're just trying to push everything back to get their bodies kind of used to it.
Coach, how have you seen at least like the energy, at least of the team? Do you see them galvanizing right now? But like you had mentioned, you have to also like keep them calm and make sure that they don't, I guess, overexert themselves.
Exactly. You don't want them to get to that spot too quick. You know, so we got back here Saturday morning, got back like 4 a.m. And so you have all this time. You don't play again on Friday. We had selection Sunday. We did some walkthrough stuff Sunday. We went hard yesterday, tapered Tuesday, and then today was kind of tapered again. And so you really want them to start to click and turn it on starting tomorrow, where the game plan and everything is clear in their mind. And once they have the clarity, that's when they can go out and be aggressive and execute. So starting tomorrow, you just really want to start to ramp it up a little bit more. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, trying to keep things as normal as possible. They usually have 2-day preps. So that's kind of how we started with that today with the 2-day prep.
Any season is gonna be, ups and downs, but yours probably is a little different, and you started everything so new.
Yeah.
Did you expect, okay, this is a legitimate where we should be by the end of the year?
I did. I always felt like we should be able to finish in the top 4 in the league. I just going into it, you knew Duke was going to be Duke. Carolina and Louisville on paper, you knew they would be that. Then Virginia, Clemson, us, NC State, I kind of felt we're in the same bucket where anybody could finish kind of in those top 4. But then you got to play the game. You got injuries, a lot of things come into factor and come into play that change that. But for us, my thing with the guys and what I'm most proud of them for this year is how they've dealt with all the adversity we've had. We've had a lot of adversity, everything with Marcus. We had assistant coaches go out for medical issues. We've had True had something going on where he was away from the team. We just had different stuff that always kind of came up throughout the season, and we just kept battling and kept chipping away. And that's what I'm most proud about them.
I asked one of the players this when you brought everybody together first. Did you have everybody, I wasn't sure how they said, introduce each other, or did they, how did you go with this? Obviously some of them knew each other from basketball. But.
Some of them knew each other from basketball. We kind of did some dinners and stuff, but then we kind of had this thing come in called Profile, where you take this test online and it kind of gives you the, I guess, psychological makeup of the people in the room, like what motivates them, what brings them down, what's important to them. It gives you a whole data points. So we did that kind of in front of everybody, and it kind of showed you what guys are about. And so from that, I felt like our guys got to know each other a little bit better. Just understanding, all right, Trey is this type of personality, this type of demeanor. He's a dominant personality, and then Shelton is more of what they call an S, where he's like steady, calm, cool. This is what gets him going. So once everybody kind of figured out each other, it kind of came together organically. And then we have such good guys that they hung out with each other outside of the facility is what you're always worrisome of, is that everybody goes back and kind of is on their own. But they really meshed outside of here, which always the best teams do, whether it's going to movies, going to the beach, going to the mall, just hanging out and always being around each other. That's how you get to know people.
You talked about the week between games, but coming out of the ACC tournament, and that might have been maybe your worst game of the year. Did you feel like that maybe they were a little tired and maybe this week off will be good for them?
Yeah, I thought we needed it. I did. I thought we needed it, and I thought it was a good test for us, because this is what this week is going to look like. You got a big game on Friday. If you can win in advance, you got another big game on Sunday. You get a day of rest. But it's what I was so excited about with playing Louisville and Virginia, because this is what this is now. And so being in that environment and being in that moment for the first time as a team, you get to see how people react and see how people play. And then you got to remember, Virginia's number 9 team in the country. They're one of the best teams. They can make you look bad also, but I did think, like you said, it was our worst game. I didn't think we competed to the level. Sometimes you get your butt kicked. That's what happened that day. And I didn't think we punched back. And so it happens. You got to flush it and get on. But I do think the rest was needed, because you want to rejuvenate and be fresh. This is when you want to be as close to fresh. No one's ever fresh at this part, but as close to 100% as possible for this week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.